right. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the first installment of the Educate and Elevate workshop for 2023. Today, we want to have a quick but impactful discussion on financial literacy and wellness. And we have a great group with us tonight to have this discussion. And so I want to thank you all for just being with us for this next hour and 15 to share your expertise, to gain more knowledge. The point of the Educate and Elevate workshop overall is to provide you with valuable information that will help educate and elevate high school and college students in their matriculation periods from college to high school and from college into the professional workforce. The end all be all for me was when I started the foundation, there were a lot of things that I just felt like I didn't know as I was going through college, as I was getting ready to go to college, and it definitely after I joined into the workforce. And money was a big thing. I didn't know what to do with it, not properly to where I could set myself up for a future quicker, sooner, more efficiently than what I did. And so all of this is just to help you better position yourself for your future. And so first, I'd like for you to take about 10 to 15 seconds to share this live. If you are watching on Facebook, you never know who may need the information that we're getting ready to present to you. And so we want to expand our reach as much as possible. And so just hit that share button really quickly, and we're going to get things started with introductions. Whoever wants to go first, the floor is yours.
Well, I have my camera on, so I'll go first. First, thank you so much for inviting me to speak with your audience tonight. I am Kalila Burton, and I'm the founder of Project 3910 Budgeting. And what I like most about this event is in college is where I absolutely failed financially. And being able to look back on it, it is pretty much the birth, how the birth of my organization got started. I think I've experienced everything poorly in finance, such as eviction notices. This was in college, poor credit scores, and I really learned how to turn it around. So I'm excited tonight to talk with you to help you not make those same mistakes that I made, so that you're able to have a much stronger position as you move forward in your adult life.
Thank you, Kalila.
I love it. So I'll go next. So my name is Janelle Bettis. I am the CEO of Bettis Financial. We're an accounting firm. We're headquartered here in Huntsville. I'm a finance coach, but I'm also an accountant. And like Kalila said, college was the stumping ground for me, where I made some of the worst financial decisions you probably could make. But I took those things that I learned and leverage those to help educate college students, adults on how to make better money management decisions. And so I'm excited as well to talk to you guys on tonight, share just some of our experiences that we have gone through and how we were able to overcome it with the knowledge that we've been able to learn.
I will echo those two ladies and start by saying thank you, Kiara, for the invitation, for allowing me to come and share with the audience today. I'm very excited to be here. My name is AJ Stevens. I am the Vice President, Business Development Officer for Community Lending at Valley Bank, covering the state of Alabama, providing support for small businesses, providing access to capital, teaching financial literacy, and driving relationships and partnerships for us at the bank. And to kind of piggyback from what the lady said on the pieces where they messed up in college, my worst mistakes kind of happened after I graduated college. And being in the workforce and being an adult, not knowing how to properly manage money and understand finance, because when I grew up, we didn't talk about finance. We didn't talk about money in my home. My parents said, hey, don't mess up your credit. And that was about as much as I got. And so being in this space, working with small business owners every day, I see such a disparity in the information piece. And one of the things that I say literally every day is we can't win a game that we don't know the rules to. And so I want to give everybody the rules on the financial literacy piece so that they can be stronger and have more sustainability in their lives. So happy to be here, happy to share.
Thank you guys, and thank you for your wonderful introductions. If at any point in the conversation you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, whether you are on Facebook or Zoom. We will answer them as we see them and as they come in and as they fit into the conversation. And so once again, before we kick off and get things started, make sure you hit the share button and drop any questions that you may have in the comments. And so, this may seem really, really basic, but as we've all said over and over, that we made a lot of irresponsible decisions during college and post graduation as it pertains to our finances. And so we're going to start with the basics and talking about just basic banking knowledge and what a bank account is, what the purpose of it is, and then how a bank account can benefit you, and the key things to look for when deciding on a bank or a credit union to go with. And so I'm going to open the question up to the group and ask, what is a bank account? What is its purpose and what's the benefit?
So I feel like that just fits me so well since I'm the banker here. So a bank account, is a place where you can store your money to either accrue interest or to just have in a safe place. Usually bank accounts are insured by the FDIC, which means your money is safe. So unlike in the 1920s when the Great Depression and all that happened, where people are losing their money, we don't have to worry about it anymore, because if anything, if someone robs the bank or anything happens, your money is insured. So it's a place where you store your money, and the importance of it is you have security. So if you have the money sitting in your under your mattress or in a shoebox somewhere, if somebody comes and robs you, that's it. There's no protection. And so, you don't have the opportunity for your money to accrue interest. So which means you won't be able to make money off of the money that you have sitting in your shoebox or under the mattress. But in certain bank accounts, in certain institutions, they have interest-bearing accounts, which means you have a certain percentage in which you can make money off of what you have sitting in that account. So it's a great tool to have. And in today's time, most employers aren't paying you in cash. They're paying you via ACH, direct deposit. So you need a place to receive your check. If you don't have an account, then you're in trouble. So yeah, that's a bank account and the importance of it.
Thank you, AJ. What about, of course, you have bank accounts that yield interest. Are there any additional benefits? I know that you mentioned having the ability to get your direct deposit to your bank. So we have the direct deposit, we have the interest that can accrue. Are there any additional benefits to having a bank account and not hiding money in your home?
I think maybe from a more practical sense, because I'm not a banker. So I'm going to say this before the banker comes back in. I love what he shared about savings. But from a budgeter's standpoint, I know we'll talk about budgeting later. Bank accounts also, they have morphed and evolved since when I was in college. They help you budget your money. They help you organize it. They help you invest. They help you share money. So bank accounts have really become tools to help you use and drive your money pretty much, how you want it to help you move through life and how you operate. So one of the things that I think about bank accounts is organizing my money. And I think that sometimes people will have multiple accounts for that very purpose because there are different accounts for various reasons. AJ talked about accruing interest. Certain accounts are going to accrue interest more than others because you get to carry a balance longer. So you'll have a certain account that you're not touching, has a higher balance, is going to accrue more interest. But like me, I also have an operating account, which I call that our household account. It doesn't carry large balances because we operate out of that bank account. It pays the bills. And so it doesn't carry very long balances for a long amount of time. So just a practical sense of it, bank accounts are great for helping you organize and budget your money.
I have to concur because I have
I agree. And I would add before AJ comes back that if you're a business owner, right, you need a separate account from your personal account as well. So it doesn't work when you label a personal account that says this is my business account. That is not a business account. So you want to make sure that when you do go in to see your banker, that you do identify the difference between the need between a personal account and a business account as well.
I'm laughing at that because I did
Ooh.
that in the beginning. When I first started my business, I was thinking, oh, well, I have this extra account I don't use a lot. And when it was time to really have an account for my spending and even try to use these more electronic processes that businesses use now, I could not use a personal account. So that was back in the day. I learned from that, but I was just so tickled by your comment because that's exactly what I did. Yeah.
A lot of people do.
Yeah,
Yes.
y'all are speaking my language. Hearing that last point about the separating the accounts from personal and business, I have to share this with entrepreneurs literally on a weekly basis because people just don't understand it's not okay to commingle funds, which means you cannot have your personal expenses going into the same as your business. You know, you have to have a separation of the two because when it comes to tax time, when it comes time to give your information to an accountant or bookkeeper to help understand the ebbs and flows of your business. When you come to me, a lender asking for money, I'm not trying to look at, your beauty supply purchases, your Hibbett, purchase, whatever you're doing, it's not related to the business. If you have a construction business, I shouldn't see you buying a pair for a haircut because that has nothing to do with your business. And so commingling funds, you cannot do that if you're an entrepreneur. But, to kind of go back to the original question, the benefits are, you have a more flush way to look at your finances. You have a way to look at everything that you've been doing for that month. So you have your bank statements that they'll give at the end of the month. And that way you can see what your account activity looks like. If you only have cash on hand, then you won't be able to, look at that at a glance. You kind of have to write things down. And, this is not the early 1900s. We have technology. We're in a digital age. And so just, to echo, their points, they made great points. That's what you need a bank account for. That's the importance. Those are the benefits and the features of having an account, because if you don't have a bank account, people look at you funny. When you come to me, a lender, you don't have a bank account, and you're an entrepreneur, I'm like, okay, what have you been doing? How's your business really operate? And for the young people, the sooner the better, because the relationship piece is very important. I'm a relationship manager. I build relationships every day. It's not about opening up an account. It's having a trusted advisor, someone who understands you as a person, what your needs are, what your ambitions are, what your business is doing, and being able to speak to that and being able to help you out, in the future, and in the present. So building that relationship early on is very important. If you don't have a relationship with a banker, then you're in trouble. So the sooner the better to establish that relationship at a bank.
You said something key, and I'm not trying to take over this conversation, but AJ just has such great points. There are going to be populations and neighborhoods that don't have immediate access to good bankers and good banks. And I think that's one of the important pieces that your Potts Foundation is doing, is you also have to be educated about healthy banking. Because unfortunately, everyone is not going to have, which I've seen, access to people like AJ, in the banks that he works for. So this makes your effort right now so relevant, so that we are also educating ourselves about good banking practices and knowing when to determine if we have an AJ or a not.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of knots and a lot of things in life. And so being able to navigate those relationships is super, super important, especially when you're at a tender age of college and you just don't know what you don't know. And so I know that we touched on, and I'm not going to go back into it, but we touched on the importance of not commingling funds a little bit. And I think that if you're a college student and you are also a business owner, because a lot of students have businesses now, it's become more and more common that it's important for you to know that you should not, cannot, and will not benefit from commingling funds. And so as we kind of move along in the conversation, and before we wrap up talking about the bank accounts, in terms of when you're looking to decide on a bank, is a student account the best bank account to have? I know that some students have joint accounts with their parents. When should you cut the leash there? Is it even necessary? So let's touch on that a little bit really quickly.
I'm trying so hard to not jump at everything.
Well, you're a banker. So when budgeting comes, I won't be holding back. So you go ahead, AJ.
Boom. Okay. That's all I need. I had approval from you, Miss Janelle.
Yes, you're good.
So about that, you need to
I know.
you, you have to have a separate account for the business, like to your point. But when it comes to student account versus just your own account or joint accounts, it just kind of depends on where you are. So if you know you're going to need money from your parents pretty often, you don't have a job and you're a big spender, because most of us in college, we were spending money. We were
We didn't have.
contributing to in all of the activities, going to the parties, and we don't have nobody's money but our parents or guardians or whoever that may be. And so if you know you're going to need some assistance from your parents on the financial side, you want to have that joint account, because it just makes it easy to transfer funds over. And I know one of our accounts, one of our teen accounts, your monthly service fee is waived if you have an account connected to a parent or guardian. And so that's a benefit there. And on the, man, my light just went out. Give me just a second. I'll be right back.
So I'm gonna say, I was about to say something that, like, I know you have a specific audience here, but I shared this to my page where I have a lot of, various people, so they're listening too. My daughter actually has what you would call like a student account. And what I like about it is a great teaching tool. So my bank account is not going to have the tools that her account has. It gives her certain reminders, but it also gives me as a parent special access to her account to help manage it and guide her through that independent process of having a bank account. So I think that would be one of the benefits. When I said earlier that I think banking has evolved, probably 3 years ago, I would have said it's not really necessary to have a student account. They're all the same. But recently, they have really changed, and there are some really great bells and whistles that they have. They're even teaching kids how to invest with their bank accounts now. So I certainly think I was holding the road for you, AJ, till your light came back. So
you're doing such a great job. I appreciate you so much. Very great points that you made. So yes, it depends. Like I said, it kind of depends on where you are. But if you need assistance, joint account. If you don't, you feel like you're big girl, big boy, then you can take your parents off of that account. But it's just kind of like, it just really depends. It's not a right or wrong way. If you want to have a student account, that's fine. It's a lot of benefits. Most student accounts or teen accounts are you don't have to deal with any fees most times. So you kind of want to look at that. You always want to look at the fees, and you want to look at the benefits and the features, and what the bank offers. I believe at the beginning of the question, it was kind of what do you look at when you're selecting the bank? Am I on point? Okay. It depends on what your needs are, not just for today, but tomorrow. You cannot select a bank just for what you need right now. You always want to kind of look at the future, because if you are thinking about going into entrepreneurship, you don't want to select a bank that doesn't have any business accounts or doesn't have any business lending, business credit cards, any assistance to, merchant services, treasury management. You want to make sure that you have a well-rounded approach, because it's not a problem to move from bank to bank, but that relationship that you have with the banker, because you're not just going to set up an account, you're going to establish a relationship with the banker. And so you want to make sure that you have someone, an institution that can support you today and in the future. When you're looking to purchase a home, ideally you would like to go to your banking institution to help out with that loan. So, just making sure that you not only just choose the institution that's around you, but somewhere that has needs, has solutions to your needs today and tomorrow, and someplace where you have a relationship. If you know someone at their location, at their institution, great. If not, you want to talk to your friends, your peers. Most times we make decisions based off of word of mouth. And so, talk to your folks in your network and, decide on, what they're saying, if they have a relationship with someone, and, use that to help you make a decision. So relationship, and make sure they have solutions to fit your needs.
Definitely. Thank you, guys. And so if you're just now joining us, please take a moment to hit the share button on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and we will answer them as they fit the conversation and as we see them. We are going to kind of pivot to money management and strategy and talk about budgeting and savings.
There you go, my friend.
And so budgeting, my gosh, it's a there are a lot of things to know about budgeting. And so although we can't hit all of those things today, we're going to try to hit the high points as detailed as possible where we can. And so the first simple question is, what is budget? Because I didn't know what that was when I was in college. I didn't have one. I just spent money because it was there to spend. So what is a budget?
So my entire business is centered around budgeting, and that's how vast budgeting can be. But it also is very simple. And the simple thing about budgeting is it is a money plan. It is a plan that tells you, or first of all, it helps you tell your money where to go. I think we have this attitude about money. When people talk about money, some people get anxiety and they get nervous or they get angry and they don't like to have these conversations. And it's because of trauma with money. It's the lack of money, not being able to manage it. But one of the best things or triggers that turned on for me when I started budgeting several years ago was that it puts me in the driver's seat when it comes to my hard-earned dollars. Now, however you get your money, I'm pretty sure you had to work pretty hard for it. And a budget is this freedom tool that you use to help you spend money the way you want to spend it. You give every dollar a job. You tell it what to do. And that job may be pay my light bill or get me a new outfit, whatever it is. You give this money a job to work for you. And I think when you put budgeting in that mindset, you realize that it's really a plan for you to get somewhere. So when I teach people to budget, what are your goals? And you have short-term goals. Your short-term goal may be, I want to be able to save $5 a month, because Instagram and Facebook will fool you into thinking you got to have these lavish savings, this lavish life. And the truth is, inflation is hitting everyone.
Yeah.
These jobs are still not popping out of it everywhere. And so, we may have these flashy rental pieces or the new layaway, the afterpays and all of that. You still gotta budget those things. So I'll start off by saying budgeting is a money plan, and then share, whatever my counterparts have to say about that.
So when I think about budgeting, I think about it's the foundation of everything that you're gonna do in regards to your finances. So like Kalila said, it's your plan. You give every job an assignment. And we know that if you're working somewhere or you're doing something and you don't have an assignment, what are you gonna do? You're gonna stray, you're gonna get lost. And it's the same thing in regards to our money. So you gotta look at it as, okay, most people sit down and they're like, man, I really don't want to do my budget. Or they say, a lot of things that we usually hear is, oh, I don't make enough to budget. Well, that's not true. Your budget is what you're allotting that time and space to say, okay, this is how much I do make. These is what my expenses look like. This is what my income looks like. And I'm going to put that plan on paper, in an app, whatever tool that you decide that you want to use it, so that you can have that confidence that I know where my money is going and I know exactly the plan that I have in place for it.
Check to check living is not it. And that's what happens when you don't budget and give your money a job. You just pay bills and you go to work to pay bills. And that's the quality of life that you introduce yourself to. And it's not the best situation to be in. And so when we talk about budget and establishing a budget, what are some good tools that we can use to establish a budget, and what should be included in it? We have things set up that are on auto pay that we might not include in our budget. For example, Apple Music, Netflix. We may not be budgeting for those things because they just auto draft out and we're not thinking about them. And so how do I establish a budget and what should be included?
Before you get started,
AJ.
I just want to say, I feel like I need to have a notepad in front of me and a pen out, because I'm just so excited about what you're about to say. And I said all over your face, like the energy is just there, like you're so ready to teach and share this information. So I'm not going to chime in much because I want to hear from you. So take it away, my friend.
So one of the things I think we forget about budgeting is it's more than a pen and a paper. And I think the first thing that we like to do is get the pen and the paper out and just start listing the mechanical part about budgeting. And it's just like starting a diet that you're going to stick to. It never works if you're just going to jump on a fad or jump on a bandwagon. The first part about budgeting is deciding in your mind that you are going to use this tool to get your money straight. Now, my budgeting platform is faith-based. And so I align the way that we spend money about the way that God directs us to spend money. But do you know that whether you want to make it faith-based or not, it's still the same thing? You've got to have a goal and a plan and an order. So budgeting is a structure. And, you know, you're going to have people who are kind of loosey-goosey. My husband is one of those, but he still budgets because he understands where he wants his money to go. So I would be remiss if I didn't share that before you start, you know, talking about what do I need to do with budgeting, you have to get your mind right. You really got to say and make a decision that this is what I want to do with my, the reason why I put the word hard earned dollars on there, because when you look at the money you earn as hard earned, you may treat it a certain way, you know, and so it goes into this stewardship aspect. Are you being a good steward over what you've been given? Part of my story is I was kind of convicted in the past about not being a good steward. You know, Christmas in my house looks a lot different because we're not, you know, we want to be good stewards over what we earn and not necessarily spoil people with things. So there are a lot of mental things that go around with budgeting, but how do you establish one? The simple piece, the A to Z, is you've got to write down every single thing you spend money on. That sounds so simple, but when I help people with their budgets, we get onto about line number 5. And then I hear, oh, wait, I forgot about someone, or for some reason, people always forget food. Or they'll say, oh, I can't, I'm gonna have to just start taking my lunch. Newsflash. If you weren't cooking before the budget, please don't start cooking after you make a budget. What you need to do is just go ahead and put Five Guys in your budget, and that's how you eat. Leave Publix alone, leave Big Bear alone, wherever the grocery store is where you live. And you need to go ahead and put the restaurants that you frequently, you know, patronize in your budget, because that's realistic for you. Yeah. People waste so much money when they budget because it's like a diet. You want to go buy all these vegetables, and then what happens? They spoil because you're headed to the drive-thru again. So I tell them, stop trying to buy all these meals. If Zaxby's is your go-to, do your Zaxby's budget, because that's how you eat. So I'm going to pause there because there's so much you could say, but what's got to be included in the budget is every single, even that 99-cent storage fee.
Oh my.
Go ahead and round it up to $1. But go ahead and round it up to $1. And I tell people, you know, round your income down and your bills up. So if you make $12.75 a week, go on and make that $12.50, budget that. And then if you got a 99-cent bill, it's $1. Right. I'm waiting this double Dutch time, so I hopped out.
Yeah, to add to that, and I really just want to hear from you, honestly, because but one of the things that I always, you know, advise when I'm talking about budgeting is not just budgeting for, you know, your expenses, but budget for your lifestyle. So if you like to travel, if you like to go out to the club and get a section and get bottles, you know, if you like to, you know, for dates, you know, if you're a serial dater, if you're in a relationship, you need to account for all these things. Don't just put what you're constantly spending your money on with, you know, food, gas, you know, bills, but put that lifestyle stuff on there too. Account for that, because if you try to sit up and, you know, and wait until, you know, it's that time for you to do this, and you're looking at your budget, it's like, oh, I didn't put this on here. And now you're trying to scramble and figure out where can you cut corners. But if you account for everything, like she said, you don't have to worry about this. So make sure you account for your lifestyle, that travel budget. You know, if you're a sneakerhead, you know, if you like to, you know, get your, you know, if you like to pamper yourself and you like to do self-care activities, put that on the budget. You know, even though it's not maybe a every month thing, put that on there just for the savings piece. If you need to save for that, do so. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
And that's like the sinking funds thing, or like, you know, J's are going to drop every 15th, every 3 months. Go ahead and put it on your budget, because you're going to end up being I call it fake ballers or fake rich. You're going to be fake rich with looking fresh. You got your, you know, your toy birch, or you got your, you know, your J's on, but your bank account is like negative $77. And that's not what God has for you. He wants you to have this abundant life with the toy birch, with the Jordans, you know, with the eating out. but you've got to plan and organize that a lot better. I think, Janelle,
Okay, no, this is good. I echo all the same sentiments that you guys have had, that you said. But the thing that I would add is when you are writing down all of your expenses and all of your income, don't forget to plan for those emergencies, because we know that we live in a time where stuff is gonna happen, and most most of the time, we forget to plan for an emergency, and then we're trying to scramble and see where we're going to get the money from to cover a $200 emergency, or maybe it's $1,000. Just maybe 2 weeks ago, I had to get some work done on my car. It was almost $900. Well, if I didn't already pre-plan for that, then I could have been in a serious bind trying to cover an emergency that I didn't necessarily plan for. So don't forget to add that piece in when you're sitting down to look at your budget.
Definitely. Things literally go wrong every day, whether it's car, house, apartment, you don't have to worry about it, but it's a car, home, life. I mean, sometimes, life, and there's nothing that you can do about that, but it's less stressful if you create a plan for your money and you have a savings and some type of soft spot to fall back to. And so with that, how often should we review and update our budgets?
So I do, I'll tell you what I personally do. So in my household, I'm a full-time entrepreneur, so our budget looks a little bit different. So my husband works full-time, but we have a budget day. So our budget day is every Monday. But I also have a budget day in my business because that has its own separate budget. But I'm a big advocate of telling my clients, like, don't just do the budget and then don't look at it no more for the rest of the month. That defeats the purpose of doing it. It's not just another thing that we put on the list to check off and say, oh, I did my budget today and I'm done. I don't have to look at it no more. So I would say if you do your budget at the beginning of the month, I usually would recommend it should be done before the beginning of the month for the next month. So if it's the first of the month, I'm going to start checking off the things that I know are automatically set up on auto draft that they've taken. I've seen it come out of my account. I'm going to check it off. And then as the month goes back on, I'll go back and it's around the 15th. I'm going to check it again. By then, some more transactions and things should have come out. And then again, I'm going to check it again by the end of the month. So that's my routine. It works for me. I got a little calendar that says, check your budget. Before you start getting used to making it a habit to actually look at it. That's something practical that I do. I put it on my calendar. I check it on the 1st, 15th, and at the end of the month. Three times a month is when I check it.
I think every answer probably is going to be right here because it's going to depend on your lifestyle. Me, on the other hand, I'm a morning budget checker and I check it. And that's because we have a lot of spending that comes out of our house. We also, believe it or not, deal with organizations that only take checks. And so with that, we have to, I want to see if those checks have cleared. I'm managing, I'm monitoring. And I also teach people to keep cushions in their budget. This is not savings. This is not the sinking fund. We'll talk about that later. This is the real cushion where it's, I have kids, Mom, this field trip that I forgot about. And I'm like, this wasn't in the budget, but that's something that I can check and see how much can I put towards something or, something else has popped up. So there are some seasons where I'm checking it daily, and then there are some seasons where I'm checking it weekly. It is very rare for me to go without checking our budget weekly. Now, my husband is not a budgeter. That's just not his thing. And it's not that he disrespects money or our money patterns. He's not the one that pretty much had where he focuses his energy, but he's the monthly budget checker. And it's something that we do together. So I think it really is going to depend on your lifestyle, especially if you have several, because we also have all of our accounts are joint. So that means we have income coming in at all times of the month as well. We don't just have income coming at certain, paycheck periods, it's probably something being deposited all the time from other streams of income that are not necessarily businesses and things like that. So it's really just going to depend on your lifestyle.
Definitely. Let's see. Trying to figure out to make the most of our time where I'd like to go next, but let's just hit really quickly on how to create healthy spending habits and planning for big purchases.
So one of the things that I always tell people to do when you're getting ready to make any type of major spending purchase, one, you got to have a goal for it, because sometimes we determine, oh, well, it's just something that I want, and that's fine. A want is going to happen in your finances, but you got to determine if this is something that I want or if something that I really need. If it's a need, then of course you may want to get that first in your budget. Put that in your budget first. But the thing that I would tell people to do, that if you're going to plan for a big purchase, is that you need to determine how you're going to pay for it. Are you going to do cash? Are you going to do credit? Are you going to do it as a loan? What method of payment are you going to use to acquire that purchase? And then you need to have a plan centered around how to pay that off. So if I got to save for that purchase, then I need to make sure that I'm allotting that amount into my budget that goes into maybe a separate account solely for that purchase. If I'm going to use credit, then I need to make sure that I'm going to have that payment paid off before the end of the month, so that I don't incur those this interest on the credit card that I use for the purchase. So you got to determine how you're going to pay for it, and then if it's a need or if it's a want.
And Kalila, before you respond, can you also rope in the convenience of paying for options, whether it's Afterpay, Sizzle, Affirm, whatever the case may be? Can we rope that into the conversation too? Because I think that with a lot of the fast fashion that we all have access to now, it's made it easy just to flow through money in 4 options.
So one of the backbones of budgeting that we probably hadn't talked about is discipline. And that's the part that hurts. That's the part that people really struggle with when it comes to budgeting. I don't really have an opinion on these Afterpay apps because I don't think they charge interest or a fee. And so if they had charge interest and a fee, I probably have a lot more to say. But the part about discipline that I want to say is you have to know you. And that's another part of those budgeting pieces that's really hard to do. Like, I'm not a auto draft pay. I've kind of got PTSD from really poor financial experiences in the past. So I don't really do a lot of auto drafts, but I know a lot of people that do auto drafts, and they also live like the money is still there and they also don't manage it. So I think you have to be disciplined enough to know what you're spending that money on, and if you saved for it, because with the new layaway of Afterpay, some people probably don't even know what layaway is. I'm saying that older people know that the Afterpay, perhaps that's in your budget to pay this thing off. You put in your budget, you're going to put $50 towards, let's say, this Macy's, purchase, and every month you will pay that however long it takes you to pay it. I don't see anything wrong with that. The issue comes when you have now overextended yourself and you have going out more than what you have coming in. Right. It goes back to that stewardship concept as well. Are you living above your financial means? That's a conversation you have to have with yourself and whoever is helping you financially advise. I think with budgeting, we think you can't have nice things or the finer things in life. And I think that's an unfortunate tag that we put on budgeting. But when I say things about knowing yourself and knowing who you are, I remember the way I taught myself budgeting, and this is going to sound very archaic. Discipline is I did not use a debit card for like 3 months. I put it on I left it on the TV. And that was because I did not manage it well. And now today you're going to run in places that actually just won't even take cash. So that's a bit differently. But for the most part, you can get around life, using cash. But what it did it wasn't a punishment for me. It forced me to do that thought process of, is this necessary or is this something that I just want? Now that that is conditioned, I know that, okay, I can do the Afterpay with that, or no, I'm going to pay it in full. I'm kind of a pay it in full, kind of girl. I don't like to drag stuff out unless it's something that I have to. I think I went all around with that question, but
it's okay. It's okay. I just wanted to make sure that because I think that you made a great point. If it's something that you budgeted for, so if you have a shopping budget that comes out of, then that is something to take into consideration. And so I just wanted to make sure that we touched on it in case anyone had the thought and the inkling. And so,
put fun on there. Put Beyonce on the budget. I saw this funny meme about all these people, and I'm gone, by the way. Woo. But I saw this meme about people being so upset about, how much they spend on tickets and all of these things. If somebody has built up for it and pay and saved for it, it's the same thing with, you want to buy a new car, a new bike, or a new toy, a new gadget. It's the same concept. Save up for it. AJ, I cut you off.
You're good. You're good. I just wanted to chime in and kind of give a practical example of that's not the most colorful way to kind of give an example, but I'll give my personal experience, which can kind of help lighten the mood for some. It's hard looking in the mirror when it comes time to budget. And for me, I'm in the finance space, but it's hard for me to look at my finances sometime and say, I need to put this on here. I need to not do this. I need to not do that. It takes time. Like, it's not an easy process. And that's not what we're saying. That's not what the ladies are saying. It's not easy. Like, it takes discipline. And, for me, I don't always look at my budget as much as I should. But what I do is I give myself a certain amount of leisure money that I can have during my pay period. So for 2 weeks, I can have $500 that I can spend however I want to for whatever that may be. And I don't go over that if that's my amount for those 2 weeks. And so give yourself little checkpoints to build up to that place where you're saying, you know what, I'm absolutely not going to spend money on this. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to follow it to the T. And if I'm saving, this is what I'm going to do. But don't feel like you're so pressed to have to be perfect or get it right the first time. Like Kalila was saying, it takes time. You have to build up to it. She didn't do the debit card for a couple of months. We can't, in today's time, we can't do that because we have these right here. And my debit card is right here on this phone. So I don't have to have a wallet when I go anywhere. I have my license on here. I can have my debit card, credit card. So it's all right here. So it's not as easy, but just be practical with yourself. You know where you stand, you know how you are. And if you can, handle, spending a certain amount of money or not, or what you should be doing. So just, give yourself grace. Give yourself grace and don't be hard on yourself, and understand that it's a process. So I just wanted to, add that.
Yeah.
I love that you said the grace piece, because so with that $500 that you're talking about that we're using as an example, put blow money on your budget, because that's what I put on mine. It's like blow money. And so it's money that you like made. And I'm a money risk taker, by the way. As conservative as I sound with money, I'm the one in a household that will take the risk, that will buy the investment, say, oh, let's invest $6,000. And my husband's like, wait, what? And I have failed several times with certain investments. And, and I still have to get my budget right. I just changed jobs. I'm in higher education, love what I do. And I went from getting paid every 2 weeks to once a month. So that was a whole new, thing for me to get used to. But the last thing I was going to say when we were talking about the $500, I think about budgets like jeans. When your jeans are too tight, you're grumpy. You can't move around. You don't have any flexibility. You've got to have wiggle room in your budget. And that wiggle room may be the blow money. It may be the padding money. And what I also like that AJ was saying is he gives himself $500, but you're still budgeting that $500. But because it's not so strict, you're winning. You're making wins because you're knowing that I'm staying within this $500. And man, I did $456 this month. I'm winning.
Yep.
And then, but you push that that $46 over to the next month. So you're starting off high, like, man, I got $546. So give yourself wins, and you've got to give yourself grace. And I don't really know a lot about, and I know a little bit about our population here, but in marriages, If you're the one that is the budgeter, regardless if y'all use money separately or together, it's a whole nother story. But you can call me, we can talk about it. Give the person you're budgeting with grace, because they are going to mess up. And the best way to be able to continue launching your money plan forward is you've got grace. Mutant.
And the thing that I would add to that, when you said, celebrate those wins. Anytime that you are doing anything in your finance journey, you got to celebrate it as a win. It's going to give you the motivation and the momentum to keep it going. I tell all my clients, I don't care how big or how small it is, if you actually did your budget every single month, you did all the stuff that we were supposed to do, you stayed within budget, you didn't overspend, it's a win. Because that's going to help you go into the next one saying, I want that same feeling. It's like a adrenaline rush that happens that keeps you pushing forward and saying, okay, I know that my finance journey it's a long journey. Your things don't change overnight, but all of the things that we're talking about tonight continue to help push you forward in that journey so that you look back at and say, oh, well, I'm not where I used to be a month ago or 2 months ago. And I can actually look back and see those financial wins that I've been having. So, and yeah, a lot of grace. You got to extend a lot of grace in the area of finances.
Definitely. Money is a touchy subject. And so it can be a bit of a taboo topic, and you can get overwhelmed and a little bit discouraged if you're not careful. So it's important to remember to give yourself grace and to be patient, because nothing happens overnight. And so sometimes, you may have a great month, you may have a great week. Some weeks I am great, some weeks I am not. I am a back and forther with meal prepping and eating out. And so I have to adjust accordingly. And that's okay. The overarching theme here is to do what works for you, but be mindful in the process of you doing it. Money is a mindset thing. And so if you don't tell your money where to go, if you don't give it any direction, if you don't have anything in mind for just like a vision, if you don't have a vision for your money, for your finances, you set yourself up for failure. So keep that in mind. And we're going to roll into savings as we talk about vision. And so we kind of touched on it earlier with savings and how there are savings accounts that accrue interest, and you have high yielding savings accounts. But without getting into the nitty gritty of things, what are some basic things to know about savings accounts, and what is a realistic goal? We'll say for a student, since that's our target here, because it's going to vary depending on, your income and where you are in life. So what's a realistic saving goal, and what are some things to look for when you're wanting to create a savings account?
I think the savings goal piece is kind of tailored to each person and what their goals are. It's not a one size fits all. It's not a right or wrong. It's just whatever works for you. So if your only purpose to save money is for emergencies, then you have your emergency fund. If you have, want to go to the Beyonce concert, you see she drops an album, a tour is coming. So make sure you save those coins so that you can be able to get those tickets when they come out. Because it's not going to be any promotion that comes out. It is going to be the tickets are here, and you need to be prepared. When the J's drop, you need to make sure you have the money that's there so that you can make that purchase. So you just kind of want to be prepared for whatever it is that you're trying to do. And you always have to think ahead. That's what savings is having that vision and as thinking into the future. And so the way that you do that is by, making those, prepare yourself for, when those different things come up. And, when you get an account with a savings account, you want to make sure that you have an account that's going to make you some money. You don't want to sit it in there and it's 0.01. You want to find a good rate. And I can't speak to, different, I'm sure the other ladies can share some different accounts that you could use, but there's a lot of great accounts out here that can make you some money, but you're not just going to make a lot of money if you only sit $5, $10 in there. That's not how it works. Usually in banks, they are tiered, which means the higher you have the higher amount you have in the account, the more money that you're able to make. And usually that's a pretty large amount. And so you just kind of want to make sure you look at all of your different options and know, okay, this is what's best for me. If you know you can't handle a savings account that's kind of connected to your mobile online banking, because you're going to transfer those funds out, then you want to look at an option where you have it at a different institution and you don't have a debit card, you don't have any access to it unless you have literally go to that location. Or if that's still too easy for you, want to look at an online account where, you know, it may take you a day or two to get access to those funds, which makes you think, okay, do I need to make this purchase? Is this important? It kind of makes you rethink if you're gonna take that money out or not, because it's a delayed process, it's not just instant. So you just you know yourself. And so make sure that you make those decisions that kind of put you in the best position possible to actually save and to actually use this bank account to the best of your that works best for you.
You know, and I also want to say about that, when I was in college, I was not buying Beyonce tickets. And so, you know, you're talking about somebody today who is, you know, an established professional, a 2-income household. You know, I've kind of gotten budgeted down. I was not buying, you know, those tickets. And that's because it wasn't in the cards for me. I couldn't afford that. And it was all right. You know, we would have our concert in our dorm room and that was just enough. But I think what you need to do now as a college student is not necessarily the amount, but it's more so the habit. This is where you want to start establishing the habit of saving, get into that routine of saving, and it cannot happen efficiently or effectively rather without a goal. So we've kind of slid around the word goal here a lot tonight, and I hope you're picking up on that. What is your goal? Is your goal to purchase a car? Is it to make a down payment on a house? Is it to buy a house in cash? You know, don't sell yourself short. You may be able to do that. Is it to never have to go to a 9-to-5 and you have this flexibility to figure out how you want to kind of do this self-paid lifestyle? What is that goal? Also, surround yourself with professionals who've done it, because they will then guide you on what you need to be looking towards. I love how AJ said, it's kind of like vision planning. Your savings is like vision planning. Get around some people who match your vision so that you can start seeing what is necessary for you to get there. You know, when I first started becoming into contact with people who were, you know, making millions, and I'm thinking, I will never in my lifetime make, you know, $1 million. But I said, you know what? I want to start seeing how they do things. What are they investing in? What do they look like? What are they wearing? What are they driving and not driving? And I'm going to tell you, they drive what I drive, a Ford, you know? And so I'm not saying you got to drive a Ford to be a millionaire, but you get my point. Is they're not doing anything special is my point, but they are doing some small things that I didn't know about that I want to start doing. College students do that. If you're trying to establish yourself, if you're trying to be able to have, maybe you want a $20,000 nest egg at some point, start saving towards that goal.
And then one of the things that I would add to that is when you think about what your savings goal is, you got to add in what I like to call money milestones. This is like a road check-in that says, hey, I am halfway near or halfway at my goal. And again, it's about building that habit. So with anything, you got to keep doing it. And then you got to keep having those things that prompt you to keep doing it. So the more that I look at my savings account and I see it grow, the more I want to keep adding money to it, or the more I need to talk to a finance professional and say, okay, well, how can I make this grow? You know, once I've reached that goal of how much ever I have said I wanted to, $1,000, $500, whatever that goal is that you personally set for yourself, at some point you reach a level where you have to speak with a finance professional, like your banker. So you go in, you see AJ, you need a financial advisor. So these are people that I like to call who's on your money team, right? So these people help make sure that your money gets managed how you want it to, and the vision that you have for where you want to go, that team helps drive where you desire to go. So you're never too young or too old to have your money team in place. And if I was in college, I would have took more advantage of having a money team then, instead of waiting till after I got into the workforce to get those people in place.
Absolutely. it's more important than you don't when you're in college, it's probably give or take the least amount of money that you'll have. And so if you if you learn what to do with the least, then when you enter into a space where you have more, it's not as difficult if you are wise with your money. It's not as difficult to navigate having more. And you get that high paying job when you get ready to graduate. You live within your means, you live within what is considered the best plan for you. And so as we're going to go through these last two things a little bit quickly, but if you're just joining us, thank you for joining us. I do a terrible job of introducing myself, and now, as we are toward the end, I'd like to say that my name is Kiera Potts, and I am the president of the Potts Foundation. And so as we navigate through this conversation in my late introduction, drop any questions that you have in the comments. We are going to end the conversation gearing towards credit and debit. And so two tricky things that go together, credit scores and debit. And so debt, there we go. And so we want to talk about what it means to borrow money and what it means to establish your credit and create a credit score. So Janelle, I know that typically you've been chiming in on the latter end of the conversation, but I'd like for you to chime in on the beginning of this one and kind of let us know where you are on debt and credit. Like what is debt? What does it mean to borrow money and establish a credit score?
So when you think about debt, right? Debt means that I'm going to have to borrow money from somewhere or somebody to either purchase or buy or get something in return. So maybe you had to take out student loans to pay for your college tuition. Maybe you had to take out an auto loan for your car. So those are the ways that you would accumulate debt. And in accumulating the debt, it's going to prompt a credit score. And whether or not how you manage the money that you borrow will determine what your credit score looks like. And so when you think about how you build that credit score, so you may been fortunate. Let's say you didn't have to take out any money for anything. Maybe your parents were positioned you to be able to go to college without having to accumulate debt, but you decided that I'm going to get a credit card. Well, that credit card would then initiate you having that credit score after you have bought that purchase of, maybe you bought, I don't know, maybe you put your Beyonce tickets on that credit card, And so if you decide that you don't pay that credit card back, that what you borrowed, then it's going to have a negative impact on your credit score. And it's going to make it harder for you to be able to borrow money in the future from anybody else, because they're going to look at how you leverage the credit that you did have. And so one of the things that I always like to say, when you get ready to start leveraging credit, because in your personal life and even in your business life, at some point in time, you may decide that you need to leverage credit, or you need to borrow money from someone in the form of a loan to continue to grow and expand whatever it is that you're trying to do. You need to have a plan for how you're going to pay that money back. You never want to go into a situation where you borrow more money than what you can actually pay back. For instance, if you bought a house and you may hear somebody say, "Oh, I don't want to be house poor," it means that they purchased a home that they cannot afford. And then in turn means that they're probably going to be late on their mortgage payments, which in turn can lead to that home possibly going into foreclosure. And so when you think about getting in debt, debt can last a lifetime, or it can be just for a moment, but you have to decide how you are going to leverage if you're going to go into the realm of borrowing money. And again, I too teach biblical principles in regards to debt. So I got some things that I would say, but I'm not going to go that route tonight. But just think about
that's a borrower, slave to the lender. Come on, tell us.
So we don't want to be slaves to anybody that we have borrowed money from.
That's right.
So it's one of the worst feelings that you can have when you're constantly getting calls every single month from different creditors, and you know that you cannot pay them. But in that time, when you took the money out or you used the credit cards or whatever it was, you did it and you didn't probably have a plan for it. And then the back end of that is that you now have to deal with the consequences of how you managed that debt. So you got to have a plan for it, just like any part of your finances. Debt, like I said, can either last for a moment or it can last for a lifetime. It depends on what your plan and your strategy is around it.
And to help you understand how your credit score is comprised, because most people don't understand what those numbers look like. So it's based off of 100%. So 35% of that is your payment history.
Yes.
That's the largest amount. So if you're missing payments, if you're late on your payments, that's 35%. And in school, if you have a test that is worth 30% of your grade, that can make or break you. And so it's not much margin of error for you. Then next is 30% is your credit usage. How much of your credit utilization are you using? If you have a $500 limit, you don't need to go over 30% of that. So you going over 30%, that's going to ding your credit because you're going over your credit usage. And even though you have a limit of 500, if you're spending 400 of that month over month, it's not going to look good on your report. And that's 30%. 15% of it is your credit history. So that's what you have on your credit profile. 10% of it is new credit. When you have new credit added, or when you have a new inquiry onto your credit report. And then the other 10% is your credit mix. So revolving lines of credit, or let's say if you have, so to make it more practical, I don't want to give terms. So that's whether you have a credit card or let's say a mortgage. Those are two different types of credit. So, or if you have student loans, or if you have, it's just the mix of your credit is 10%. So that's how your credit score is comprised. 35% payment history, 30% credit usage, 15% credit history, 10% new credit, and 10% credit mix. So
you're here.
Keep in mind when you're using your credit to understand what you're doing and how it's going to impact your credit profile.
I want to tell a very practical story. It's not long because I know we're running on time. Oh, was that bad, Kiera? I saw your face.
No. I just wonder what practical story you're about to tell.
Oh, it was about my daughter.
Oh.
It's about credit. And so she's 10 and she's learning how to use money. And so she went to this festival, gave her some cash. So I went and checked on her. She's just buying all this stuff. And I'm thinking, where are you? She's like, oh, I had a gift card. I had this, blah, blah, blah. So she ends up borrowing money from a friend. So that was a whole nother parenting moment. We don't borrow, you don't need it. We don't borrow unless it's necessary. So she learned that lesson. And so the next day, her friend wanted the $12 back. And she was like, well, I don't have it. So we have this very long drawn out conversation. And this is where I think she learned about credit. I said, what was your plan on paying the $12 back? Where were you going to get that from? And she sat there and started crying. And she said, I don't have a job. And I think that we have to think about that when we borrow money. Where is it coming from? So you may want to do the afterpay. You may want to get the new car. You may want to get the new house. But where is this monthly payment going to come from? Because you may have this very good credit score, but you don't have a great job. You lost your job, or you have bills that are not credit bearing, that are taking up your income, and you really can't afford this credit bearing lifestyle that you want to live. So the key question is going to be, where is the payment? Where's the money going to come from when I pay this back? It's not just this swipe out of the air or this tap on my cell phone and it's just bling, this money just came out of the air. I think she really thought that until she sat there and I said, where were you going to get it? And she said, you know what, Mama, I don't have a job. And I was like, no, ma'am, you don't. So how are you going to pay that back? So that's a practical story, but I think we miss that step when it comes to credit. We don't think about tomorrow. We think that we got approved but we don't think about the maintenance.
Especially if it was an emergency.
Yeah. And as a lender,
Define
I
an
deal with this.
emergency. You know, you got to define an emergency because, you know, our power was out from a storm for 8 days. And I'm gonna be honest with you, a generator was not an emergency purchase. It was a luxury purchase because we had water, we had fire. Like, you know, what is an emergency to you? We didn't have health issues. So we didn't necessarily have to have that generator, but because we saved, we went out and bought one the very next day and was able to, you know, do that. So that's another thing we hadn't talked about tonight. What's an emergency for you?
Yeah. And that's subjective.
Mm-hmm.
On your situation. So absolutely.
Cold shower still wet. Sorry.
It sounded so old school, but it is. I mean,
well, because that's, you know, that's the truth. You know, I think we get a little too, we can get convenient and think that some of those conveniences are necessities. And they are, right.
They're luxuries. What about debt to credit ratio? Can we I know that you kind of touched on, you know, the breakdown and the percentage of credit, but what about the debt to credit ratio, especially since we hit on knowing where the money is going to come from when we spend it?
So the practical way to break this down is that's how much you have that you owe and how much you're bringing in. And there's a percentage that's comprised from that. So you don't, to make it easy to understand, you don't want to take on more debt than what you actually are bringing in. And so if your expenses total up to $1,000 and you only bring in 1,100, you're in trouble. Like, because anything can happen. You don't want to overextend yourself and max out your capacity of what you can actually handle. And so never, because I try not to use the banking terms and the finance terms because, you know, it's kind of hard for people to understand. So that's why I'm just like really breaking it down. And so just understanding what you have, what you're bringing in versus what you owe, and not going over that amount or not going so close to what you actually are bringing in, because now if anything happens or you need to do things in life, you don't have the money to do that. And that's solely off of what you are owing. Not your day-to-day expenses. So that's just your debt. So that's your mortgage, that's your car payment, insurance, you know, if your credit card payments, that in conjunction with what you're bringing in, make sure that those numbers are not the same. You don't want to have the same amount of debt that in income, because it's just not a good place to be in. And when you're trying to borrow money, that's what we look at. We look at your debt to income ratio, and we use that to determine your credit worthiness. And if your debt to income ratio is high, over 30%, over 35%, then you're not going to be able to borrow money. And even with looking to purchase a home, you know, they look at that very closely, because we will need to understand how much you can handle. You think you can take on this additional, you know, piece of equipment, or this, you know, purchase this home or this clothes, but I'm looking at your finances and these numbers are saying the math ain't math, and this person can't handle this additional debt that they're trying to take on. So in short, that's what it is.
Good deal. Before we dismiss, I want to, of course, give everybody an opportunity to plug in your businesses and your institutions and your contact information. But before we do that, just 2 things. A key takeaway from this conversation as it pertains to things to remember that you want someone to remember as it pertains to financial literacy and wellness, and then ways to further increase your financial literacy and wellness.
So I would say key things to take away is know your numbers, meaning you got to know what your budget looks like. Have those times that you're going to check it. And then the thing that I would tell you in regards to financial literacy is that your finances are a journey. It's a lifelong journey that you sign up for. And so one of the best ways to get acquainted and get comfortable on that journey is by what you are feeding yourself. That looks like maybe watching a documentary, maybe listening to a podcast around financial literacy, or a financial topic. Most time people operate from a fear-based finance place. And the fear is associated with because they don't know. And so you make decisions from that place. You think about your finances from that place. And so the more that you put in will help produce what you need, what you're looking for in your journey. So pick up a book that interests you around a financial topic. Listen to a podcast around that topic. Maybe have conversations, finance talks with some of your friends, just to allow yourself the space and the grace to learn what you don't know, so that you don't operate from a place of fear concerning your finances.
Social media, they're everywhere. There are so many finance groups. Some are richer than others. They're free. It's free knowledge. Just type in finance. Go to Instagram and type in #budgeting, and you'll find several great groups. Even funny memes, and I think it's also great to, be able to back that up with some literature. Pick an article a day that is on money or finance. I will tell you, find a financial person. You got two on here, AJ and Janelle. Am I saying your name right? They are financial people that, you can work with. I teach budgeting only. I know finance, but my wheelhouse is budgeting. It's not interest and investments. I actually have a financial advisor because that's not my strength. So find you someone who will work with you and teach you how that goes. And don't be afraid to ask. When I was telling you about learning about those millionaires, they ask people questions and they find out about, what is selling now? Who are you banking with? Who is your financial advisor? Start doing the same thing. Get a financial advisor. Your school should actually have financial literacy in your financial aid department. Start there.
And if they don't, call me, because I just
Call
finished
him first.
a semester.
He'll be there
a semester at Alabama State teaching a financial literacy workshop. So your institution doesn't have financial literacy workshops, reach out to me. I'll be here. What you say, Kiara?
That sounded real bad.
Hey, A&M didn't call me. They didn't call me. So I'm happy to go. Tell them to reach out. But my takeaways would be, it starts in the mind. And none of this can happen until you change your mindset around how you view money and finance. And it takes discipline. But there's a level of grace that you must have with yourself in this process. It's a marathon. Don't think that it's going to happen overnight, and don't be upset when you don't get it right the first month, the first 6 months, the first year. It's a marathon. And so as long as you're living and breathing, the next day, there's an opportunity for you to get it right and to do better. And on this financial journey, one of the biggest things that's been helpful for me is accountability. Having someone that you trust to let's set goals together and let's see what we can do. I have an accountability group, and we read books together, we set financial goals together, and we build each other up. And so having a network of people that you can allow to hold you accountable, and the last thing will be relationships. Not only just having a relationship with your friends and peers, but build relationships with financial professionals or people that you aspire to be like, people that you see that are successful. Build a relationship with those people. Like Khalil said, they're millionaires and they're doing things completely different than what you're doing. They have different habits and they don't mind asking questions. Sure. Never feel like you can't ask questions to people, because all you're trying to do is learn. And can't nobody make jokes about you or talk about you for wanting to learn. If you're trying to learn and they're making jokes, then jokes on them, because you're getting some information that's going to help better you. So those are my takeaways. And to reach out to me, my email address is on the flyer, so I won't say it out. So you can look at the flyer, reach out to me via email. You can find me on Instagram. I'm the resource at, you find me at DAJS Finance, DAJS Finance on Instagram. You can catch me on LinkedIn, AJ Stevens. I'm always sharing, information on their financial literacy on both of my social media accounts. So I'll be happy to help however I can. And so, yeah, that's me, AJ Stevens.
Thank you, AJ. Now, reach you, or Kalila, whoever wants to go next? I couldn't tell.
Go ahead.
So my you can find me on all social media at Bettis Financial. Or if you want to follow my personal page, is I am J Bettis on Instagram. And then if you're looking for a finance coach, reach out to us at bettisfinancial.com, and we'll be more than happy to take you on that financial journey, be a part of your journey with you.
Thank you, Janelle.
So I want to invite you all. I have several outlets. Someone's jumping in my front door now, so my ring may pop up. But I want you to come check out my my website. Oh, you can't see it, but you see that scrolling there? I created this really awesome calendar, and it is a daily reminder calendar of just things, 365 tips about budgeting God's way. And so, like today is February 16th, and it says, pay as much as you can on your smallest debt until you pay it off. Every single day, you'll see something really cool to put on your desk. So you'll find that at theburtongroup.co. I have budgeting sheets on there. I have worksheets on there. I have a budgeting workbook on there. Go to theburtongroup.co. That is my website. And that's where you can find that. I also have a really fun Facebook group that I haven't been able to, Facebook and Instagram, but I haven't been able to dedicate too much time to lately. But I have tons of information on there, all free. Go to the photos and just scroll yourself away. It is Project 3.9.10 Community, and that stands for Proverbs chapter 3, verse 9 through 10. And so that is my budgeting group, Project 3.9.10, and I think it's also on the flyer. So that's on Facebook and Instagram. And like I said, you can find a lot of my resources if you want to purchase any of those at theburtongroup.co.
Thank you, guys.
Before you chime in, Kiara, I love that so much, Kalila. I want to purchase 3 of your calendars for whoever Kiara would like to choose. I want to do a giveaway. So I'm going to purchase 3 calendars, and you figure out however you want to disperse them to the registrants. And but I want to use that tool to help someone on their financial journey.
Thank
you. And I'll add my finance workbook to that as well. So I have a budget workbook that'll go good with her calendar. So
yay. If you are currently viewing, whether you are on Zoom or on Facebook, if you're interested in their products, Janelle, you're giving away a workbook, and then Kalila, you're doing 3 of your calendars by way of AJ. Is that correct?
Yes, but I love a good giveaway. So I have downloads on mine. So I will send you a code. I want to update my website. So I will send you a code for a free download of some of my templates, and they're all digital. So they can do, it's an instant download. So I'll do a code. I'll make it POTS. So yeah, that's what the code will be, POTS. But let me update it on the website, and then you can send it to everybody who registered.
Okay, thank you guys. And so if you're interested in any of the above, please make sure you comment. What will the comment need to say? Money management. And so if you are interested in having the lovely workbook and the lovely calendar that Kalila has, because I also have one that sits on my island that I flip through every day. And so if you're interested in those products, please comment money management in the comments. I am going to send the link out to Kalila's website and the code to download her templates when she sends it to me through my email list. So if you're not a part of that and you want to join it, shoot me an email at foundation@keyinspires.com, or shoot me a DM if you're on Facebook. AJ, Janelle, Kalila, thank you guys so much. AJ, thank you for purchasing Kalila's calendars, and Janelle, thank you for plugging in your workbook as well. I had no idea that you had a workbook. So that was a value added information all around, just in you guys' wealth of knowledge, and you sharing your knowledge, your products, and your services with us, because, you know, these are conversations that we're having for free, but Janelle and Kalila do this at cost. So keep that in mind when you go back and you watch this replay. All of them are available. Also, AJ is a resource. AJ, you are in what, Auburn?
I'm located in Auburn, but I cover the state of Alabama, so I'm everywhere.
Okay. So he is on the lower Alabama end. Janelle is up here in Huntsville with me. And Kalila, if I remember correctly, you are down on
In
the
Mobile.
yes.
So AJ, if you ever come this way, I would love to have you at Bishop State. That's where I am the dean at. And if you're ever this way, I would love to have you talk with our students.
Okay, you know what? That when I'm down that way, we'll put some on the calendar and set it up.
That's right.
Let's do it.
See how that goes, you know? But thank you guys so much for your time, for your attention, for your expertise and share. And I mean, everybody's busy and it's raining, it's storming outside. And so I do not take this time that you spent with us for granted. I am honored that you guys have decided to join us and to share your knowledge, and I thank you. I hope that we can do this again soon. There are so many things that we did not get a chance to talk on, and so the conversation of financial literacy and wellness is so broad. There's so much to discuss, and it's hard to try to pack it all in one conversation. But if you guys ever want to reach out to them personally, please do so. They are resources for you to help better establish yourself financially. We don't know it all. We may have a wealth of knowledge in a lot of things, but we all need guidance and help to help be our best selves. And so thank you guys for joining us. I am Kiera Potts. I am the president of the Potts Foundation. We are kicking off a fundraiser on tomorrow at noon. And so if you are a lover of popcorn, especially the double good popcorn, please let me know. You got so excited. Please let me know.
Jesus.
It's some good popcorn.
It's so good. Oh, it's so good.
But it's really good. So if you are a lover of double good popcorn, they only sell it through the fundraisers. We're going to be kicking off a fundraiser tomorrow at noon. I will post the link on my Facebook page and probably on my Instagram. So if you're not following me, you can find me at the Potts Foundation. You can find me at I Am Key Inspires. I am Key Inspires for my personal Instagram, not plugging in myself here personally, but it will be in both places. So thank you guys for joining us. I hope that you participate in our fundraiser. We love popcorn, and have a good night. Be safe. If you are not already home, be safe in going home. And you guys have an amazing weekend. Thank you.